Okay, so we should be good if you want to now call the meeting to order.
Okay, at 7:34, we'll call the meeting to order. So approval of minutes.
We need a scribe.
First we got to get a scribe going. Do
I can
have
scribe.
Huh?
I can scribe.
Okay,
Okay.
I can scribe, but I can't even touch the stuff until Sunday. So if you can do it, Lisa, it'd be great.
Yeah, I don't know how soon I'll get it, but I'll scribe.
Okay, Lisa, the
Okay.
scribe is yours. So approval of minutes. As near as I can tell, the January 5th and the January 12th minutes are up for approval.
And December 8th, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
21.
December 8th, we're reapproving because we've already approved them.
okay. So has everybody looked at all those, and is everybody willing to accept that? We kind of got hashed through them a number of times.
Yeah.
So last week, John, did you get my, I think I sent you some revisions to last
I
week.
saw them. I haven't incorporated them yet.
So that'd be 112, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think those are quite ready. And
So
I think,
we're not.
yeah, and I was fine with the week before, or I think that was for the,
So let me go through each date then.
Public
And so
hearing.
are we good with the 12/8 now?
Yes.
Everybody? Okay.
Yes.
And the 1/5? We're good with
So
those?
good.
Those are the ones that have the edits that Tim fixed for us, right?
Yes.
Good.
And how about 112?
No, there were
Not ready.
revisions.
I need to do some revisions to it.
Not ready. Are those revisions to be discussed tonight, or we want to put that off?
Let's put that one off if we can, because I haven't had a chance to even review them. So I'd like to review the edits if they're available, or I can just review what we have and then see what the edits are after.
Okay. All
And
right.
I also, Peter, I also sent the December 15th renewals. That's the public forum. That's the, I think, 9 or 10 page one where I tried to capture everybody's notes just because we're interacting with the public.
I had those written down. Did everybody get a peek at those?
Mhm.
The 12 what?
Yeah, I saw, those are the, yeah, I saw
15th, the
those.
forum.
December 15th.
Oh, from December 15th. Sorry,
Yeah.
yes.
December
yes.
15th.
Okay. So we're in a position to accept those as well?
Yes.
Any opposition? No? Okay. So the only thing outstanding we have are the 112/22 minutes.
So I move that we accept the minutes that we just talked about accepting.
I'll second those. All those in favor? John,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
and myself, Peter, aye. Those are unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll go right into what happened last night.
Hmm.
I have some notes. So we talked just before the meeting started. I know you guys have made some comments about selectmen, but I was very surprised to see that the selectmen have been kind of tuning in with us, and they were very up to date on what we've been working on, and they were very thankful and very appreciative. I think they feel very comfortable where we've come from and what we've been doing. They had high praise for the survey and the folks that put that together. Mr. Purple did recognize the people at the town hall that helped facilitate that. So it was good to see that they are listening and people are noting our efforts. I did request a change of the charter to get rid of one of our form requirements.
Mhm.
That went around the room, and to be honest with you, I really didn't get a solid answer. However, I did get the feeling that there's no time frame on the 3 forums. So
They gave a solid answer. I watched that one. There was a solid answer of only 2 forums needed because a survey they're considered
Okay.
acceptable.
Well, they were even said that we could have a forum after. It's as long as it comes before town meeting, like there's no race to have it by the end of February. So-
Peter, they also said that an extra presentation at the town meeting could actually qualify as the
Right.
last forum, but they also mentioned that, the video or something else post completion.
I was gonna get to all
Oh,
that.
sorry.
That's all right. So yeah, so anyway, that's the deal on the forum. In the conversation going around the room, they did talk about, I did bring up about how do you want to present this? We're going to present it obviously to the selectmen. Are they going to present it to the town meeting, or are they going to look for us to do that? Because there is a fair amount of work putting together a presentation and figure out who's going to say it and so on and so forth. So they did feel very comfortable that because there's so much work has gone into this, that our committee should be the ones putting the presentation together and doing the presentation. So that's something that we're going to have to keep in the back of our minds. Who wants to do it, or how we should do it, or whatever. We'll work on that when we get whatever we get done. So that, and then they also did talk about, in the meantime, if we could, as far as, once we decide what we're going to do, as far as selling it and getting it approved, there's some programming we could do. And that's when the thought of a video could, we could have a video made of, basically where we came from, what we took in, all this stuff. That's pretty much what I have from them. I did just send in to meetings that we did not actually meet because we didn't have a quorum. So, there's a lot of logistics on posting the meetings. And so anyway, I just sent that in. So there is no agenda minutes for that meeting because we didn't meet a quorum. So does that pretty much sum it up, John, or anybody else who was listening? Did I forget anything?
No, they were pretty positive of the committee, so.
Yeah, John missed his chance to be good cop, bad cop. But,
Damn it.
Because we are in fact there is a placeholder for us to be on the town warrant. So
Yeah, it turned out there's a lot of warrants that are not on they're hidden in there. So I think the warrant wasn't fully completed, but it's listed. So they were pretty clear about acknowledging that really at the beginning of the meeting for us.
What's the date of town meeting now?
Not set, is it?
They haven't picked one. There was 3 or 4 dates they're talking about. And there's a survey out right now for parents to answer, or they want parents to answer because of sports schedules in the spring. So they were trying to get some more data to decide which day would be best so they can get the most attendance.
Sounds responsible.
yes. So I guess the next thing will be to get right into the meat and potatoes of things. Would be to to work on. Hopefully we've been able to do a little bit of homework, and I know we did have some ideas on the outline and what to put in the outline. So Tim, if you could pull up the outline.
When you say outline, are you referring to
The template outline revision thing?
Yeah, let me make sure I pull up the right document.
I have it as 1/12/22.
Yeah, I was just working off of a document earlier. I want to make sure it wasn't the one I pulled up. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this should be it.
Okay. I don't know how we want to go forward here, but I guess we could go for the low-hanging fruit first. We kind of talked about days, time, and hours. Do you want to just plug in what we've already worked on to that section?
Yeah. I might share my hand on something here, so just tell me not to do this. But I had started trying to draft I got a lot of documents here. So we're trying to put this into something usable that we could take forward. Is it? Yeah, here it is. So you guys say yes or no to this, and if not, I'll just use this as a.
I know you were making notes last time when we were actually making this, and I was kind of surprised at the end when all of a sudden we just had the headings.
Yeah, hold on. Something's not happening. It's not working right now. Here we go. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. So I started plugging in from the chief's document into our outline. And I don't know if I was at the same time as there are my notes too. So there's some changes in the process of me doing this. So if you guys would rather start fresh, I'm going to just put this off at the side. But I did start an outline taking the chief's items from his previous 2017 version and plugging it into our day and time and some of the other things like exemptions and violations and some of those things. But there are some of Tim's thoughts pulled into this. So it may or may not be the right way to start.
Yeah, we can at least go through it. I mean, and we can always add to it or subtract. Why don't we just go through it section by section and see what we think. We'll have some discussion on each section and then vote to either approve it or not, or we'll put it off for future work. But why don't we take take section scope?
Yep, I'm going to make this bigger than that's where we want to go. So I took the chief's document for what my thought was, and I just simplified that first paragraph to be a little bit more of the point of it instead of extra words in the effort to make this as minimal as possible. That was my approach to taking it, where I kept the point and kept to prevent excessive noise, which may jeopardize the health and welfare of the citizens and their quality of life. And now, again, like if this may not be the best way to approach this now. So,
Lee, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's fine. And the only thing I would change is that it's redundant on the second line. It says from excessive sound that may affect their quality of life. I think you can get rid of the phrase there because you've got it set better. May jeopardize their health and welfare or degrade their quality of life. So I think that's a much stronger statement. So I would go with that.
Is Lisa still with us?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. She didn't. I guess they only have room for 5 faces, I guess.
And I don't think you need the word whereas. I think you can just start with a capital T.
Okay. Anybody else have any comment on that?
I like it. It's very brief and to the point.
Lisa,
And I think it hits all the high notes of the things that we've talked about that are concerned, that are, why are we doing this?
okay. Lisa, go ahead. Your hand up.
I think, I would want to add to that brief statement that that the bylaw is enacted to protect, preserve, and promote health and safety, welfare, quality of life for citizens of Southborough through the reduction, control, and prevention of noise by establishing maximum noise levels upon and between premises, prohibiting certain noise-producing activities, and providing for inspection and defining of offenses and penalties. So it kind of gives a good overview of what you will find in the bylaw, so on and so forth.
Can you read that one more time?
And I think it came out of the chief's draft. Let me see if it's here.
I don't think I have his draft.
I am not a fan of Zoom.
To prevent excessive sound. No, actually, no, that didn't come out of there. I think that came out of the scope.
The original scope?
Yeah, the original scope. It was the end of it.
Can you email or copy and paste that into an email and send it to me? Is that in a Word doc? You can do that?
Yeah.
Okay, if you do that, I'll stick it onto this and then we can see how it looks on screen.
I mean, I'm comfortable, just like what Cindy said, with what we had. It's simple.
I think let's look at it on screen.
We can look at it, but
I'm kind of in words like this. I'm a visual person. I don't know how many else is. So I think in honor of fairness, let's put it on screen. Let's take a look at it, and then we can approach the next step if you're cool with that, Peter.
Yep. I mean, considering that I didn't think we even needed that section, so.
Peter, is there any benefit for that additional section for enforcement or?
No.
Okay.
That's usually the scope is, it gives, if there's a regulation that's in depth, and it gives whoever's trying to interpret the regulation, in case there was something that maybe wasn't noted, that it kind of fills in any blanks. You know, I think with common sense, I mean, we're dealing with, with noise and work hours, and, I don't know that, you'd need that, but the section at all, I mean.
But it gives us intent.
Right, which I thought the first 2 sentences or whatever it is did. But, we'll take a look at it, see what you folks think. And once again, there was some recognition at the selectmen's meeting about it being a concise, I think somebody referred to it, 3 or 4 page document. So I don't recall who said that, but I think that was something that they thought was a good direction.
Yeah, 6-point type.
I think,
Yeah.
I look at this.
With a microscope.
So I understand the piece about having this bylaw for the enforcement piece of it and our enforcement agents. But I also look at this bylaw as information that we provide to our residents. And so I think it's important to kind of give them a quick overview of what they will find in the bylaw. It is a place for them to find information so they can understand, if they have an issue, who they can reach out to, how it can be evaluated, et cetera. And I think that's, it's a way to communicate this bylaw to our residents. So I don't want to, I know people want it to be concise. And we want it to be concise, but we need to include the important parts of it. I think it will become very concise from what was presented last time because the decibels and the tables, based on the vote from last time, they won't be part of this because the majority of our committee said, no, we don't want decibels in there. So
did I pull the part that you think was missing?
I just pulled that. That's the piece that I thought was good. I think the top part was from whereas excessive sound. I think that came from the chief's bylaw.
So the part, if I consolidated the chief's bylaw into this phrase here, this top phrase, and then the part that I think that we were missing from what you just brought up was this bottom part. So the two would have to play.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So if that's the case, then I'm going to delete this bigger block here.
That's fine.
And then we can talk about this section that you would like to add to it.
Yeah. Well, I think, can I make a suggestion here? Instead of voting on stuff tonight, I think we should just kind of get an idea of what we want to put there. And then we should have time to go back and take a look at what everything has, what has been written, so we can kind of take a look at it and make sure it makes sense instead of taking a vote tonight on, this is what it's going to be. And, we're all voting on it tonight. I think we need to look at it as a whole and not just in its parts.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can just vote to just accept it for the night, for the most part. But go ahead. I just wanted to get a consensus on certain things. But go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the idea of not taking a vote on everything. That way we don't have like 4,000 votes like we did.
Yep.
The night I did it. We do need to take in the middle line after prevention of noise by establishing maximum noise levels upon. So because we're not doing noise levels, we have to get rid of establishing maximum noise levels upon and between premises.
I wouldn't take that out quite yet because we were talking about putting the DEP regulations in, and there are noise levels that are part of that.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, but we are not establishing those noise levels. We're gonna put in the DEP thing, and we're gonna put in some reference to the laws that Chief was telling us about that control the noise from mufflers and all that from vehicles. I don't think we should say we're establishing them because we're not. We definitely agreed to that we weren't going to establish decibel levels. So I just have a problem with those three words.
But those are established noise levels that
That's the difference.
some of our departments are following.
And establishing, which is an active thing. So you could say, established maximum noise levels, but this bylaw is, it would say by utilizing established maximum noise levels would allow us to reference another document's noise levels because this bylaw is not establishing them de novo.
Okay, so we can say established. So that's great information to, that's information that we need to put in there.
And put utilizing before established.
You might be able to take it out and put it in definitions, what maximum noise levels are, if it's only in certain cases. But it's kind of, if you put it in the scope, it's kind of a broad-based statement.
Mm-hmm.
So we could go down a couple of different paths with this. We could wordsmith this thing now, or what I think what Lisa said is kind of digest, think about, and come back later and leave this in the document for the time being for us to see how we like it. So if we wordsmith it now, we could spend a long time on it. If we come back to it, we could just spend a long time later on it, or we could just come with something good. So I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I think if we leave that as is for now, and let's get down to, when we eventually get to the DEP section, then, we may, it may shed some light on what we want to say up there. I mean, it almost sounds like the scope should almost be done last. After you cover everything else, you want to make sure the scope covers everything, but yeah, we can work on it.
So my suggestion then is just that any area that we identify for potential wordsmithing, just put it in yellow or some other color so that, it'll call our attention to it when we want to go back to it.
Can we just say this bylaw is enacted? I just can't look at it again. I know we're not wordsmithing, but just is. Thank you.
Okay, so if we're good with this one, can I scroll down the page?
Yep.
Okay, so definitions. I didn't go crazy here because I figured this will come later, but my start was at least agree on what legal holiday means. Kind of keeping in mind that maybe it behooves us to actually define legal holidays, as was a suggestion to us. So that was my thought of where we started with this.
And as I recall, I think that came from some other bylaw, right? I think somebody had sent that to me and I think I circulated it.
I lifted it from the email, so that's all
Yeah.
all I copy and pasted for this. I didn't put a lot of extra thought into it. It was just a thought starter for me.
I guess it kind of gives a little leeway into some of the holidays that, I guess they could be considered just, I mean,
So, Peter and Tim, could we simplify by just saying the legal holidays are based on the town approved holidays and call it a day? We don't have to go beyond that.
No, because the town approved holidays include all the minor ones about Patriots Day and the October one, Columbus Day or Indigenous People Day or whatever.
Is there a national holiday list?
so
The federal government has
For
one.
a federal, I'm just trying to reduce the 4 lines to
right.
1. I'm still on a 1-page document. I know I'm not going to get there.
Yeah.
So basically what they're saying is if any of those days were on during the week, they would be considered a holiday or under a Sunday guideline, basically.
So you don't need Easter
Okay,
Sunday,
but
which is
that list is
federal
gonna
holiday.
get a whole lot longer now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Easter Sunday's already a Sunday
Right.
and not a federal holiday either.
No, Easter ought to come out because it's a Sunday, it's gonna get covered.
Right.
Right. Otherwise, we're gonna end up starting to put in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur too.
Mhm.
They should be included.
Mm.
So what would you guys like? I mean, if without pulling up the federal holiday list, I think that's a simple approach to a solution. But
Massachusetts, and I don't know what it is. Didn't we have it somewhere as just Massachusetts and federal holidays? Legal.
Again, you're gonna, if you do Massachusetts holidays, you're gonna get Patriots Day, you're,
Patriots Day is a Boston holiday.
How about Bunker Hill Day?
That's a Boston
Yeah,
holiday.
that's a Boston one.
Yeah, but Patriots Day is a statewide holiday.
Mhm.
I don't think it is.
And how about
Yeah,
June?
we don't get mail on Patriots Day in this state.
Yeah, we don't. And what about Juneteenth? I mean, that's
That's a new one,
a new federal holiday,
but I think if we go federal holidays.
right in the middle of the summer mowing season.
so as much as I don't want this to get longer, it sounds like we're leaning in the direction of calling out more specific days.
Well, I think if it's legal, if it's federal holidays, legal holidays, I think that could potentially be changing. And so it's a matter of, to name things out. I don't think that's a good idea. And it's definitely taking up space.
But I would agree. I think that makes it more fluid too. If dates change in the future, then the document will evolve with the, if the federal government changed dates, then this would evolve. And with a motion for inclusion and all that, I think, if we can pass that buck to somebody else, that's great. And plus it shortens it up. We don't have to redefine it.
So what would we like this to agree on for now, just so that way,
I'm fine with that.
just this?
Yeah.
I don't know if federally is capitalized or not. Lee, you're good about these word things.
That I don't know whether we would have to do it.
Okay, I'll let it go for now because it doesn't really specifically matter until later.
The town
Maybe-
lawyers will catch that.
Maybe we can look at some other bylaws to see what they have, because I'm sure that they have.
That was the
There's
only
others that
definition I put in for now. I figured the rest would come later. I just figured that was useful for the since it came from a separate source. We had an industrial noise. This has not been changed from our last meeting. This was what was shared at that point. I don't know if we want to spend any time on this or if we'd like to just kind of gloss over this for now and work on any other section.
Is that something that Heather can provide? That is there, I don't know if she has something that the Board of Health uses that they have written out, or if they're just using the DEP regulation, which is, let's see. the
Right, I
310
mean, the
CMR
DEP, there's
7.10.
two, it's either pure tone or 10 decibels above ambient, but I do think that sort of, I spoke with someone from the regional DEP office, and I think there's also sort of a consideration for, reasonable, it doesn't always have to be measured for it to be unreasonable. If you can't like operate a conversation.
So I know
But I
that
don't know.
been something referenced before, and what I thought this section would say was something along the lines of like Massachusetts statute, whatever, subsection, whatever. And then that would just fall in this industrial noise section, and that would really be garnering businesses and like HVAC systems and that sort of installed.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Of things. I don't know if the team thinks that, but my thought about how a piece of this approach was to call out that section and let that govern the buildings themselves, and we could discuss if the Ken situation would be covered by any of that at the same time.
So we had this, this noise regulation 310 CMR 7.10. This was the more than 10 dBA above ambient or the pure tone. So we do have that in a document.
I just sent that to you, Tim.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. This is what I need.
That's a snip because it's so old that it's in a PDF.
Okay, well, that's fine. If I can, it's easier to type and copy things than it is a lot of hunting and pecking over here.
So are we gonna kind of note that industrial noise will be governed by already
Existing
existing policy
regulation.
of
DEP.
regulation, blah, blah, whatever that is. Just so we're telling people that we're not changing anything, that it's a 1990 thing that's already in effect.
And can we recommend, like, if someone has an issue, like, who do they call to get the DEP involved?
Right, that's a good point. Just FYI, we met a couple days ago at the Board of Health, and I kind of updated in terms of what's happening with the noise committee here. And I don't think it's been sent to the noise committee yet, but we did a very brief letter that basically, kind of at the very top, how you say that is just sort of endorsing the work done here in protecting, reasonable, whatever you guys had at the top. It was just sort of protecting, there's impact of health impact of excessive noise. Right. It was just sort of endorsing the concept, thanking you for your work. And then we said we would like to discuss with you, the specific provisions and enforcement. So like Cynthia, you're kind of saying, who to call. So I think the board was expressing interest in sort of, I think industrial noise would be a section that, yes, you call Board of Health about, that for different sections, they wanted to have a discussion at some point during this working document about involvement in enforcement. But I do think industrial noise was certainly a provision that we would be involved in with enforcement.
Without
So maybe in that section, we could say, if you have concerns about industrial noise, reach out. You should be reaching out to the Board of Health or.
Yeah, I don't think it should be say enforced directly because the Board of Health may be putting them in touch with someone at the state, right? But sort of what Lisa just said.
So
Yeah.
Enforced through the Board of Health. Yeah.
Yeah.
Through, yeah, through the Board of Health.
So my thought was, and maybe these aren't the exact right words, and I don't want to get too caught up in complete wordsmithing, but my thought for this approach was industrial noise by the already established statute by the state, and then adding this additional line, keep this section short. And then that way, this section, which is complicated, has the building noise, the pure tone, all that extra stuff about HVAC noises and things of that nature is governed directly by this. And then we would just have to define what industrial noise means in the definition. Does that seem like the approach that the team would like to take?
Industrial noise be regulated.
Can you put the words in real quick, Tim?
And for industrial noise?
Yeah, no, not for the definition, but down in the section, pretty much what you just said.
It's right here. It's written down in one sentence.
Okay,
I
so
think
keep
Cindy
it,
wants enforced through, I think, right?
yeah, it should say enforced.
Through.
Right.
Would it be more advantageous to call it commercial noise instead of industrial?
No, because we're talking about commercial noise, but for the contractors, aren't we?
Yes.
We just have to define industrial noise here. So we could, I mean, I'm going to say to be thick or wordsmith.
That Board of Health document lists as commercial/industrial. They list it together. And on the other point about with the contractors, I was going to have that be paid and unpaid activities.
Okay,
That's, to kind of get around that as
all right,
well.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if we took a quick stab at a definition or things that we would want covered in the definition, it'd be building HVAC. And then we'd have to add like something activities, industrial activities, or I'd like to define industrial.
I would think it would be any noise as a result of industry in an industrial zone. I mean, I'm going through that
Yeah,
the
it's
Board of Health
industrial
template.
use.
That's kind of what the Board of Health template says, kind of.
Okay.
They don't really
Industrial
define
use.
it.
Sorry,
So
Lisa.
it doesn't define noise. It's based on zoning.
Right.
Okay, so we would just have to put what the zone would be that we have these buildings in, if we did it that way. Because I think we have a couple different ones, right? We have industrial and like 2 or 3 different.
We have industrial districts, we have industrial park districts, we have research, scientific, and professional districts in our zoning bylaws.
So is industrial anything that's not residential?
I think I was just going to say that.
There's wetland and floodplain districts, and there's critical resource districts,
And there's conservation as well.
village business districts, highway business districts, and wireless communication service districts. We have a
Okay,
lot of
agricultural?
zoning.
Yep.
There's no agricultural listed here, just conservation.
Yeah. So we would just need to cover the couple industrial zones and say in here.
Yeah, I don't know that we want to say HVAC because like with the Kens, that's those reefer things running outside.
Yeah, I mean, like that's any noise as a result of industry. I
Right.
mean, HVAC is the big thing here. For me, the reason that this would be here is it heavily covers the building side of
Right.
things. So if somebody puts on a really noisy HVAC system or something like that, that's what this regulation protects.
Right.
It's more so, in my opinion, it's more so that stuff than like the commercial activity side of things. Like it would get covered by this. Uh-oh.
So in the state regulation, and maybe if that young lady's here, that state regulation for industrial noise, that's for the whole state, right? That's not like in particular areas. So maybe we don't even have to specify what zones. You know what I mean?
So I'm looking
Like not even define industrial noise. It's defined in that regulation, isn't it?
So I'm looking at 310 CMR 7.10,
Yeah,
and it's not specific to industrial noise. It says no person owning, leasing, or controlling a source of sound shall willfully, negligently, or through failure to provide necessary equipment, service, or maintenance, or to take necessary precautions, cause, suffer, allow, or permit unnecessary emissions from said source of sound that may cause noise. Then in the next section says, shall pertain to but not be limited to prolonged unintended sounding of burglar alarms, construction, demolition, and preventable industrial and commercial sources of sound. But it's not limited to that. And then the third section has exempts parades, public gatherings, police, fire, etc. And the fourth section says that you use section 310 CMR 752 for enforcement. So this policy, and that's the whole thing. I mean, it's only 4 short paragraphs on a half a page.
you know what, further in that document though, Lee?
752.
It talks about enforcement provisions.
Yeah, 752. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't say they're going to enforce it. It puts it right back on the towns. They're authorizing the towns to enforce it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we should include it in our bylaw to make sure that it gets enforced.
Right. So this actually, I'm not sure that it addresses the issue. Well, I guess, I take that back. I mean, so 7.10, it addresses pretty much all noise, including industrial noise. But what we're saying here is that we're going to go for the default for industrial noise. And then when we talk about contractors and homeowners, which we'll have to put in our definitions, we're putting different definitions in and regulating them differently than the default for industrial noise.
Yeah, industrial noise, if we go off of my base definition, which again, to be wordsmith, if I just say any noise as a result of industry in an industrial park, research, scientific, and professional, business village, downtown zones. So it's defining what zones that sound would be emanating from, and that would be enforced through the Board of Health. So if we would read this, it would say that this whole thing is only these zones and any noise as a result of industry.
But how is the Board of Health going to enforce that?
That's where the sound meter and stuff would come apart. And, this would be the deeper problem. Like the goal of this, maybe it's not written right. The goal of this would be to cover noisy HVAC systems or problems from those buildings that are disrupting neighbors.
Oh, okay. I get, okay.
That would be my goal for this. So however we word it, I would, like, my personal opinion is that's how we solve the problem of some of these things without making the rest of this overly complicated and overbearing, is if you're in if one of these industrial zones, you have to abide by this standing regulation to make sure you're not disrupting your neighbors.
Okay.
Right.
Got it.
If you look on the bylaw that me and Sam drafted, go to page 4 at the top, section B. It kind of covers it all in the judgment of the enforcement official. If you want to add some stuff on the CMR, then you can add to it, but read it. It's broad-based and it covers it.
What one is it, Chief?
Go to page 4, restrictions, section B at the top, and read the whole paragraph.
Restrictions. I don't know if I see it. I don't see that.
Yeah, I'm
I
not.
got it.
What I have up on my screen is what I see.
It's on the screen, Lisa, on the shared.
There it is. Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Basically, if it crosses the lot line and the judgment, the enforcement official feels that it's, you know,
Excessive.
it fits the definition and it says across a zoning district. So if you want to clarify it more by adding something on that CMR, but I mean, this covers it.
Yeah, I guess I don't quite see it covering it, Chief. The way that I see that this one here and the goal of what we just kind of wrote on the 310 CMR 7.10 are two different things. This one says that it's the judgment of the enforcement official and it has to cause, like, you know, some level of disturbance, and it's kind of loose wording. This one says, like, if you have a noisy HVAC system on a restaurant that's evacuating the, you know, the gases from the stove and stuff, and somebody has to listen to that fan run all the time and they live nearby and they're not in that district, they would have the opportunity to say that that fan's too loud. The two are kind of different.
I'd agree too. Plus the, that regulation has the measurements too, right? With the meters and so forth.
It has I believe if it's what I think I'm referring to, it's the one that has 10 dB above ambient.
Yeah.
Talk about the HVAC noises and the, you know, any kind of ventilation problems and things like that. You know, like the school has an HVAC system up on the roof. Technically speaking, you know, they could be breaking some of these things and their HVAC system might be too loud.
Mm-hmm.
But as we've seen, if you get a certain amount of feet away from it and it doesn't meet the decibel level, then you're out of luck. If that's the all or nothing, this is kind of leaves it up to the judgment official, whether it crosses the property line and it fits the definition. Once you start establishing those minimum or maximum requirements, if it doesn't meet it, then
yeah,
you kind of box yourself in.
In this particular one, I think it's the right way to go because we're talking about like fan noises and stuff like that. It's not something that would be changing all the time. It's like if the fan's on, it's making a certain amount of noise, and that should be something that's measurable. It's kind of like what the Ken's situation is right now, where they went out there, they measured it, they did it over the time, what decibel ranges, what frequency ranges were coming through. It's a different way to solve that problem. I think that this is the exception to the judgment, because you could have an officer come out there and say, I don't deem this excessive, but if you sit there all day listening to it, you know, it might be considered excessive. So having a measurement in this particular situation seems like an appropriate way to go if it's limited to installed or, and this is where Lee's looking up the definition makes me think that maybe I looked at the wrong thing for what I was thinking, but having that established building protocols is the piece that I was hoping that other legislation covered.
Yeah, I don't think 7.10 is the right place. There are no decibel levels in it.
Okay, so then that may not be the right one for what I was thinking.
There may be an interpretation like that document that's hidden on the far right.
I think there are decibels in there, right?
Yeah, there's.
No, but that's not 710. That is DAQC policy, whatever it is, 90-001.
I think that's under noise in Massachusetts. Noise.
And what that does is it refers to and reaffirms. So it's saying this is creating a policy to say how much noise violates 710. So 710 defines, you know, what's prohibited, and this policy defines how you can tell whether it's been. So it's the I think that would probably do it the way you've got it there.
So if what I'm understanding you, because you're looking at them and I kind of have my screen shared, so I'm not pulling it all up.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying we would eliminate this 310 CMR.
You can leave that because 90-001 refers to 90-001 explains how you can tell whether you're in violation of 310 CMR 710. So the two policies are married together.
So I would not cross this off then.
Correct. Yeah, right. Adding the DAQC policy is the thing that you needed to do. And then as
I
long as
don't have the CMR up, but that CMR is a code of mass regulation that would probably give the authority to have the policy.
right. So just like whenever you create whenever you create a law, then from there you end up creating regulations to interpret the law. This looks like an interpretation of the interpretation.
So Lee, how would we write this if
Nothing like making it simple.
I can't find this DAQC thing.
Yeah. I'm wondering if the Board of Health needs to give us the specifics on what they use and what regulations they refer to, and that should be included in this.
Yeah.
Can
Why
we,
don't we just table that? Industrial noise will be handled by the Board of Health, and then we'll just add on how they want to do that.
Yeah.
However they do it, but that's going to be up to them.
Is Heather still on?
yeah,
I think she's there.
Yes, no?
She might be
Heather's,
doing- she might be doing
Yeah,
some
no, that
research.
sounds good. And I don't have the document that Chief was referring to, but we handle noise complaints related to industry or sort of like stationary sources. I'm
Right.
not sure what you call it, but it's like it's not
Just
sort of like a one-time thing. It's sort of, repetitive noise. And yes, there's those two criteria that can be met. But I think that there needs to be provision if it's unreasonable. Even it doesn't always have to meet the criteria for us to be involved, I guess is the way to say it, with the industrial noise. So yeah, you can put it down. We can put something in there.
So Heather, do you mean if someone has a complaint and maybe they don't go to the Board of Health directly, but maybe they do call the police and they come out and the police say, it's a matter of the police saying, yeah, this is excessive. And it's an industrial noise. So I'm going to refer this to the Board of Health for you. And you should follow up with the Board of Health or something like that.
I think that sounds about right. As chief, but I think we would get involved obviously in this section. It's sort of more for a chronic situation, not a
Right.
That's exactly what we did with Ken's. We documented it and we forwarded it off to the building inspector and the Board of Health for follow-up.
So that's good. I think that makes sense. So that's why it's important to figure out who's going to be doing the enforcement, because I look at this noise bylaw as a noise bylaw for the town that the departments are following. And we're figuring out the process for enforcement and who's going to take on what piece of it.
Right. For example, with the Kens, they didn't perform the study appropriately. They didn't measure baseline ambient noise. You can't say that it's 10 above or not. Like you can't, that's not how the study was done. So it doesn't mean that we're still not trying to work with them in terms of finding a reasonable mitigation for noise levels.
Right.
so would we
Heather, are you gonna figure out the word, or you're?
Yeah, we can do that. Yep.
Okay, so rather than saying wordsmith this section, can we say that the Board of Health is gonna supply this section? Okay.
Thank you, Heather.
can we just make sure that we agree on this? I put goal here. If we agree on the goal, then we make sure that the section matches the goal when we're done. So I wrote for buildings and industrial
Zones?
why I said buildings to fit within stringent guidelines on installed items. That was my thought of how I explained my thinking here. Is that generally, I think that there's more to it.
Go ahead, Lisa.
So idling trucks are part of that piece with, so I think there's other things. There's, refrigerated units, if you're running a truck and it's because it's a refrigerated unit, what are those guidelines? I think there's other noises.
It's
There's the
activity, yeah.
loading docks, right? They're loading, they're closing doors. They're making loud noises in the process of, in those loading areas for the tractor trailer trucks too. So, I think there's, and that can be a constant. And there's trucks coming in and out of that facility, which makes a lot of noise. So that's
Okay,
why it's
I
important.
just shared a link with everybody because I think Cindy said she couldn't find this DAQC policy. And it actually is a couple of PowerPoint presentations that talks all about this and the enforcement and the pitfalls of trying to enforce it. So it's 59 pages long, so look at it offline.
Okay. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry, I'm just worried that we're spending too much time on something that should be just a two-sentence item. We can add to it later, but I'd want to get to the meat of.
Let's see what the Board of Health comes back with. Hopefully, I think they know what we're looking for. We just want to refer it to them and however language and whatever chapters and sections or regulations they want to use.
Okay.
So I would think we could move on to the next one.
Okay.
Lisa, do you have your hand up?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll take it down.
Yep.
Are we good with my goal though? As long as the goal's right, I think that we're good to move on.
We're going to revisit it anyway. So,
Yes.
Whatever she comes back with, we'll talk about it at that point. We don't need to spend much time on that. The daytime and hours is so
Copy and
my
paste.
thought was to talk, instead of labeling contractors and homeowners, have it be, I think when we talked about the concept, it was like paid work and unpaid work. So I guess if you were being paid, you'd be a contractor, and if you were not being paid, you'd be a friend or a friend of a homeowner. So yeah, basically. So I don't know if you want to actually, what you guys think about that. And that might take the stigma out of contractors out of it. I don't know what John, I think you have your hand up.
Oh, sorry, no.
Oh, okay. That might, that way there, if there's, the word contract is used somewhere else in the document, it won't be as confusing. So, I don't know, just a thought.
It makes it clear. Right? Either it's paid or unpaid, and if it's
Right.
unpaid,
I guess in the definition, you could say a contractor is somebody who's getting paid, and a homeowner is somebody who's
How about a
unpaid.
paid contractor and a homeowner?
Yeah.
no, like if my neighbor asked me to go help with some construction stuff, it's unpaid. I'm doing a neighborly thing. I shouldn't be restricted. So
Right.
I kind of like the simplicity of because it's very black and white.
Lee, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm going to make the argument that we should put this in the definitions instead of in this section, because with respect to homeowners, this is not just hours that you can do construction-like stuff. It's also hours that you can say play relatively louder music, or that you could have a party without a permit, or things like that. So it's basically defining what our quiet hours are, regardless of the source of the noise. So I would kind of argue for putting this definition. You could put paid work for contractors in parentheses maybe, but then just not put anything next to homeowners.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or paid contractors. You could just call it paid contractors. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think
Either way.
contractors, it needs to be, I think it needs to be defined, and I think that's
I think so.
important. Yeah.
I
Well, the
think,
reg-
yeah,
So I'm wondering with what Lee just said about no, like things outside of like, I mean, when I think of homeowners work, I'm thinking of work on your house, work on your lawn, but wasn't sure if parties and music might be included in these. I don't know if that needs to be defined specifically, like, you know, parties until 11 at night, or music until 11 at night, or whatever. I don't know, or getting a permit. I don't know what anyone else has a thought on that, but I didn't think to put parties and music under homeowner hours.
The Board of Health template under prohibited activities, which is the next section, does list outdoor music. You know, it does list some guidelines on that topic.
Mm.
So, you know, I guess that framework was based on the Board of Health when we had talked about it. So I didn't know if you wanted to look at that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we have prohibited activities for the next section, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Prohibited activities and exemptions coming up as future sections for it. So
Mm.
I mean, I think the only thing, you know, I don't see a problem with prohibiting loud music, because that's going to keep your baby up just as much as, you know, like somebody mowing their lawn if it's loud enough. But, you know, if you look at something that was said a few weeks ago, there is absolutely nothing, even if you weren't talking about doing permits, that would prevent somebody from doing as one of my neighbors did, which was they sent a you know, like a notice out to literally all of their abutters within like a half a mile, saying that they were having a wedding. And you know, among other things, they told us that cars may be parked on the public areas of our streets, which I thought was like really neighborly of them to, you know, to sort of like include us so that we knew about it. And so the whole idea of, you know, I think one of you, it might have been Tim or John, so they went over to their neighbor and said, you know, let me know if I'm bothering you.
Well, I mean, that's always a great idea, but when the bylaw is when that idea conflicts with what's happening and what the neighbor is hearing. Right. And yeah, you can send out, hey, we're going to have a ripper. I'm going to have, you know, a live band. But then, you know, when it happens and it's 2 in the morning, like we have to have something.
Right, right. And so when it gets to be 11 o'clock, right, you say enough is enough, you know.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
but you're right. There's the work hours. That was almost like day and time hours. That was almost, I think, when we were talking about it would be work hours. Maybe we should look at where if you know, the nighttime social activities might be a different section, like outdoor music, you know, or
we have an exemption section. So right now, not that I want to put in more words here, but we were in this section when this conversation came up. So would we say homeowners work activity, or would we say just leave homeowners go and let exemptions handle the one-off situations?
Why don't we say day and time hours for
work hours?
Yeah, work hours. No, up at the top where it says day and time.
Yeah. Where the green is. Day and time work hours.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I see what you mean.
How did we do it in the survey? what did we say in the survey? Let me see if I can,
Oh, okay.
let's see.
It was work hours for paid contractors and homeowners.
So it was work hours.
Hmm.
Yeah, work hours. I think that section, maybe it needs to have some definitions around it. I don't know, something like the types of equipment. What are they
I think
being used?
I think we're getting complicated with this.
Yeah,
When I thought about this section, I thought that this was just every parties.
Oh, day and time for work hours?
Yeah, when we did this section, I was thinking about it from like in terms of your neighbors making noise, things that you would get the opportunity to ask them to stop and go from there. Like at least that's the way I thought about this section when we came up with the hours from before. And we were saying, like if somebody's having a noisy party and it's 8 o'clock on a weeknight, you could say, hey, you guys are kind of loud. And then if they don't settle down, then, the police could get involved. And then if we wanted to make anything specific, we would put it in the exemptions section. But as a general rule, this would be the simplistic view of knowing what is within play.
Yeah, I was thinking it was just work. That
Yeah,
was
so was I.
specifically construction
just
and work and lawn work.
Hmm.
Stuff around your house that might be really noisy.
right.
Some stuff like
Daytime,
that.
yeah, right. We were trying to balance between the daytime noise and the work and it going further into the night, like kind of a balance there. I wasn't thinking that it was about, parties and gatherings either.
No, it wasn't.
Go ahead, Lee, you have your hand.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying and looking at, thinking back to, when we took all those votes. I mean, we were always weighing, leaf blowers and lawns and saws and things like that when we were talking about it. Looking at the chief's document from 17, he has this whole section for prohibited activities. And if you look through it, there's a difference between, section B, which is, the work hours section, and section D is in Delta, which is, the loud parties, yelling, shouting, and hooting, whistling, singing, etc. So maybe what we should do is instead, we should follow his template and, just move the section that's that we were talking about in green and make that, become part of our section Bravo and prohibited.
Mm-hmm.
We have a prohibited section below.
That's what I'm saying. If we
Move that to prohibit.
move this to be, commercial work prohibited instead of having days and hours. Because if you have it as a separate section like that, then it makes it look like, that so for all kinds of noise, as opposed to this will be one prohibited activity, and then we'll have other prohibited activities.
I'll call you later. Okay, bye.
Oh, I thought you were talking about taking the yelling, shouting, hooting and making that a prohibited activity.
And that'll be a separate prohibited activity, right? So this is one prohibited activity. Another will be, all the things that were in D is in Delta, and it can have different hours like 11 to 7 or whatever.
All right, so.
Quick update, quick note. The paid work, Peter, you mentioned if somebody's painting my house and they're painting until 9 o'clock at night, who cares, right? It's a non-noisy event. So I just want to just bring that up because we've brought that up in the past several times.
Right, so it's noise generated by paid work.
Correct,
Yes.
correct.
Are they using brushes or paint sprayers?
And whether they're making noise.
So that, to me, when you read that, it says prohibited activities, and then it has Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That it's not prohibited in those hours. It's prohibited 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Like we have to do the opposite hours if we're going to go with that a prohibited title.
Oh,
You follow
right.
me?
Yes,
Yeah.
which is the way in which it's defined in the chief's
The
document.
title is a negative and we're outlining the positive. Like, you know what I mean? It has to reflect. We have to change the title or change the hours, one or the other.
Well, we'll change the hours and we'll just make a note that we need to do that when we're modifying the document. You can just put that in yellow.
Yeah.
We won't do it now.
Does that make sense?
I know already.
Mm.
I mean, the other option is just move it into exemptions. Work during the following hours.
That's a good idea too.
Yeah, that'd work.
It's easier to think about when you're allowed to do it than
Right.
when you're not allowed to do it.
Yes.
Let's let that sink in for a minute.
Don't you just love the way Word automatically numbers things when you don't want them to be numbered? When I was doing the minutes, that was driving me nuts.
Me too.
Yeah, all right. So that's a positive. In other words, you can make noise. It's an exemption to, okay.
Yeah, so it's noisy work during the following days and hours.
Right.
This, if we put this in the, well, I guess it's by de facto, it's implemented from the beginning. It's not its own kind of thing. It's inside an exemption. So as a general rule, it's now banned unless it's an exemption. You know, like one of those.
Right. Right.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a weird place.
Do you guys want to take a 5-minute break? I know we've been here for over an hour. You don't have to, but.
I mean, I wouldn't mind grabbing a quick drink of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can make a cup of tea.
All right, I got 8:47 right now.
John,
Why
is
don't we
that
come back at
are you drinking out of a vase?
Yeah.
about 8:55?
Nope.
Okay.
We come back. All right, folks. Hey, John, what does the headset get you? You're muted.
So working from home with the kids, there's a lot of ambient noise. So this is actually a Bose gaming headset. So the microphone has noise canceling properties.
Okay.
So the joke was I was on calls with customers around the world and they would hear my dog snoring. So that's why I got this one. So it's now they don't hear the dog snoring.
Guess everybody wanted a longer break.
I guess.
Guys, I just swapped the times around to have it in both sections. To my point right before we took a quick break. I want to make sure that I didn't have a brain fart while I did it. It was as simple as taking the ending time and making it the start time.
Right.
Like just literally all I had to do is reverse the order, right? So if we were, this is untouched. So 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The prohibited activity would be from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Right.
Right? Those are opposite of each other.
Mhm.
So we have it here in the, I put it in the prohibited while we took our break. And I also left it in the exemptions so we can see which one it seems to be better in. To my point, when we stopped for a moment, I feel like having it as an exemption is a weird thing for where it lives. So having it in as a prohibited thing seems more natural because then by
You can't do it just the way you did it because it does well, Monday through Friday 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. makes sense. Saturday from 6 p.m. till 7 a.m. It needs to say Sunday 7 a.m. in essence.
Crossing a day.
Yeah, okay. So I think that has the potential to be confusing.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Either way, it's guaranteed to confuse someone.
Is Cindy back yet?
I'm right here.
Okay, so at 8:57, meetings back in service, as far as the notes go. Everybody in attendance.
Okay.
Recess
That was
is over.
here earlier.
Recess is over.
Recess is over.
Okay, so answering my question of, can I keep it simple? The answer is no. It doesn't work the way I just did it because I didn't think about what Lee just pointed out. So I'm gonna just delete this.
Can we say for work, can we say something like renovation, landscape, and renovation, landscape, and I thought of the third one and now I can't think of it.
So it looks as if
Maintenance?
Maintenance.
electric motors and internal employed in outdoor construction, demolition, or earthquake shall be prohibited from the use of every day.
And how about which generates noise?
Hmm.
Right, that's better. Yeah, not limited to.
Mm. Yep.
So I think the which generates noise has to be part of right after the unpaid work or paid work. Because otherwise it means that only property maintenance is the that generates noise thing.
Mm.
So in the chief's draft, it says no person or persons owning, leasing, or controlling the operation of a source or source of noise shall willfully, negligently, or through failure to provide the necessary equipment or facilities or to take necessary precautions permit the establishment of a condition of noise pollution. And then it goes into electric motors employed in outdoor construction, demolition, or earth moving shall be prohibited from use except specified. You know, I don't know. I mean, I think we kind of need to get into some of the specifics of, you know, what type of equipment we're talking about here, what type of work.
I think
We can be so general.
if I can take a simplistic approach to this, what we're trying to define by these hours are what's considered quiet hours. So we're taking a long-winded approach to get to what's considered quiet hours. Maybe we can just take an approach and say quiet hours are defined as, define the quiet hours. And then we can have something simple about what the work-related activities are. And if we want any extra exemptions in here about parties or things of that nature, then we can put specific language as a bullet point as a party. And then that way we keep it super clear that we're defining quiet hours.
So where do you want to put quiet hours? In definitions?
I would put it, I almost think that there should be a day and time section. Like if you're reading this for the first time, and I don't know for sure if it fits here, but if you're reading this for the first time and you're just trying to like look at this quickly to kind of understand what's going on, if there was a day and time section and it defined quiet hours and day and time, would that be clear? If quiet hours are then defined as, time of peaceful relaxation, find the right words later.
Yeah, but I think if you just had quiet hours and they were, but these aren't quiet hours, these are work hours.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying
And they're different. They're different depending on who you are. So, you know what I mean? So it's more like work hours.
Right.
If they were all the same and, for everybody, it was one set, then I could see that for sure. But where we're breaking it out into, paid work and non-paid work, homeowner, whatever. I'm not saying I know where it fits, but it's not quite, it's, you know what I mean? It's almost like work hours.
Right.
How about that? How about we say work hours? You could put in definitions. You could put it in the definition section. Work hours.
So would you, or if I'm
We'll have an own section. Put your own section in.
This would fall here,
Yeah,
and then that way it's out of the exemption section.
right.
I mean, I'd like to remove it from the exemption section because I feel like this is something that should be like not, I don't want to use the word by right, but I kind of by right of what we're writing down. You should have defined work hours by right.
Right.
Well, this is back to day and time, which we all agreed should be its own section anyway.
Right.
I
mean, I wonder if you can't put that in the definitions.
Why don't we have work hours and then we can define quiet hours as the time outside of work hours? We can put quiet hours in, definitions.
But what level of noise defines quiet?
Well, that's where we would say times outside of work hours for peaceful.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I was going to say.
I mean, yeah. We're going to have that period of time that isn't work hours. That if you don't have an exemption,
Oh,
then or a restriction, then it's going to be okay. Like quiet hours is the default.
I was going to say at the to be defined by police officer discretion, or I was thinking as part of the enforcement would be part of the definition, but I don't know if we can quite. I
think we should let's hold off on quiet hours and let's see if we can get some other stuff done as far as the exemptions and the emergencies and that kind of jazz.
Let's go back then. So what's next? It's prohibited activities then, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I have nothing. I didn't put anything into this section yet, so I have no starting point for us for right now. So I don't know if we want to try to tackle that or tackle what has words written in from the chief's thing.
I'm going through that right now, but
I'd prefer to keep on things that we have that are from the chief's document and keep chipping away at it. So at the end of the day, I don't have any words that we haven't reviewed as a group from my brain dump session. Because keep in mind, we started because of my brain dump session on the outline.
mm-hmm. All right, well, let's go with the exemptions then.
Are we okay skipping over prohibited activities for the time being?
sure. Yep.
I actually just sent you my thoughts for a prohibited activity. For one.
Okay, I can't agree to that. There's no way. No way. That is telling contractors that they can't use equipment that they need to use to get their work done. And it's going to result in, I mean, saying that the work can be done by hand, that they do with, first of all, when it's not spring and fall cleanup, it's a real quick, they use the leaf blowers to blow off the driveways and the sidewalks. You know, you're not going to ask commercial landscapers, even homeowners don't sit there and sweep
Yeah.
all that stuff up.
Can I make
It's
a
like
suggestion?
10 minutes.
Yeah, can I make a suggestion for this one, Cindy? Not to cut you off, but I think there might be a way to solve some things together. That there might be a way to do it without. Is there any desire to need a permit from the DPW or something? I don't want to complicate it too much, but is there any desire to maybe implement like an equipment operation limit? So like number one, it means there's a muffler on the equipment. So somebody's not coming out there with a machine that doesn't have a muffler. And
The leaf blowers don't have mufflers.
they have a muffler. It's just not a very big one. It's on the back of the.
Yeah,
Doesn't
but
work.
okay, so what?
But it would be within like, you know, defined limits. And I mean, this could be a whole different day. I'm just wondering if there's, like, Lisa has an approach that's day and time of year, pretty straightforward, easy to do. If there was a need for a company to get a permit for their equipment just to make sure it's in good operational standings, I don't know if that'd be of an interest, but it's another way to solve this sort of dilemma. So I'm just bringing it up as an idea.
I think that's going to be difficult for a department to try to figure out if they're meeting a decibel level because they've got a muffler on it, or you can't use a certain type leaf blower because it's above a certain decibel level. I mean, I think the city of Cambridge does that. It's pretty, they've got 25 points to their leaf blower section. I'm just saying, why don't we try to limit the use of leaf blowers? Specifically,
we
the leaf
did that
blowers
with the hours,
and
though. We
not
already-
to using it to blow off sidewalks and blow off snow from people's cars, etc.
So Lisa, I'm pretty pragmatic. If this sentence is like listed where I can't use my leaf blower in my home anytime I want within those hours, I will stand up and reject this bylaw, because remember, half the people in town don't want a bylaw. We need to be very pragmatic. I think we can get there in a few years, but I think this is too aggressive for most homeowners. I understand what you're saying, and I think I'm more conscious of the noise, especially for medical, but I think this is just too far to get in. I don't mind keeping it in, have further discussions, but I don't think it's not gonna help our cause.
All right.
So what do you use your leaf blower for, John, when there's no leaves on the ground?
Oh, I take it out and I clean the garage with it. I take it out and
blow the snow off the driveway.
Yeah, well, I have seen so many.
I think typically what they do is when you mow the lawn, it shoots out the side, it goes into the driveway, it goes on the sidewalk. I see a lot of landscapers, they just blow it back into the yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I blow.
That's exactly what they do.
And I do that when I cut the lawn and there's grass clippings on the street. I go and clean the street just to be neighborly and so forth. I mean, I'm just giving a heads up that if I wanted to quietly kill this bill, I would be proposing this, because this is what they call a poison pill.
I think you're right, John.
I would agree too.
At least I think.
I mean, I'm not a fan of the noise from the leaf blowers either, but I just don't see this working out. And I think Cindy is right that I know Cindy is right when she says that the amount of time that they do it to clean the clippings off is very short.
Lisa, I want to help and work with you to figure out how to get closer to what you want, because I think it's good for our town. I just don't think this statement here will actually make our cause today.
I think it's worth keeping it in.
Yeah, that's fine. We can
And I
discuss it.
think it just depends on who shows up at town meeting to come and vote on it.
Yeah.
And if they don't like it, and honestly, you know, I think we should leave it in at least for the next forum to get a sense of what people like and dislike about it. And because the people that may be interested in going to town meeting will probably come to the forum. But if they don't like it, they can always do an amendment during the town meeting.
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure we're careful about this. Sometimes when you put something like this that has some sting to it, even if you remove it later, the negative momentum based on the comment can continue even after it's removed. So I just want to make sure. I think it's good dialogue to have. I just want to be careful about making sure that we don't poison or hurt ourselves to get something passed, even if we remove it.
So Lisa,
And the fact is this document that we're working on is going to be part of the minutes. So it's in there and it's going to be out there. And I just really have a huge problem with this.
Lisa, can I ask, I think I know what it is, but I just would like you to say, what's the goal of this comment or this line? Like, if we can capture your goal, maybe it gives us some more time to kind of make sure that we're getting the right thing covered.
So the goal here is that this is an excessive noise, that there's people that have complained about the leaf blowers, the noise from landscapers. And we know that they come in with big pieces of equipment that are at decibel levels that are close to that of aircraft engines. And so we're submitted to that noise. They could potentially lower, they could. OSHA has regulations out there, and there's suggestions out there to go to electric. And it's not like it's an over the night switch, but if you need to start to replace things, there are recommendations out there, and the electric equipment produces less noise. So
Okay,
there's regulations out there, but I guess the
question?
point of this is I have gone from, we have stopped looking at decibel levels because there's the chance that something's excessive, but it's not going to be evaluated. We've given them a blank sheet to come in and do whatever you want from this time until that time to get your work done. But what I'm trying to do is there any way that we can maybe try to moderate some of this noise, mitigate this noise by saying, you can do your work, but you can't use your leaf blower during this time. You can use it during the main cleanups, but we're trying to mitigate noise for the health of our community. So that's what I'm saying.
Can I offer a suggestion then? Sorry, Cindy, I just have I think I can help us move forward maybe for tonight.
Well, I have one question though. One question, and I can't see my raise hand thing anymore. For instance, okay, we have cemeteries. We have 2 cemeteries. The cemeteries get cut and leaf blowers get used to blow off all of the stones. How would that get done if you're not using leaf blowers?
I think I have a good suggestion here.
That could be an exemption because they're not, I'm thinking of the cemetery in town, and there's not a lot of residential areas close to those cemeteries. So that could be an exemption.
So can I maybe suggest, instead of saying the dates that we have here, maybe we say that times of day to keep the leaf blowers more restricted than what the contractor overall hours are, as a middle ground that doesn't have the same stigma of time of year. Is there an opportunity to explore hours of day that would be?
Well, but how would that work? I mean, if they come to do your lawn between 7 and 9 in the morning, do they have to come back to blow it off at 3 in the afternoon?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's, no.
No, I'm just saying.
I think that's the kiss of death, that section, that line. I mean, I think,
I don't think it is.
I sense there's not support for this, but that does not mean that Lisa could not go to town meeting and propose it as an amendment. So rather than having somebody have to propose an amendment to delete this section, she could propose an amendment to add the section.
Well,
And-
that's unfair to, but Lisa, let me ask you a question. What if that statement there, again, I'm really pragmatic. What if during those periods of the year, there can only be one leaf blower used per lawn or something of that nature? We do.
And that's certainly another thing that needs to be discussed, but I mean, how many pieces of equipment should be allowed on a lot?
Yeah, I don't have an answer,
Talked
but
about that at the forum.
so,
So
but I think, yeah.
to Cindy had a really valid point, and Lisa, I really want to try to find a way to cover the pieces here and make sure that we can help advance the right topics that the town has, and leaf blowers came up a lot. I think to the minutes that are going to be part of this, it may or may not behoove us to include this line today. So I would like to make a motion that we eliminate this line today. We continue to work on it in the background and then add back something in the future.
I think we should keep it because we said that we would look at this closely after our discussion. And so I think it's important that it stays here. And if we do have another public forum, that this is certainly something that our citizens should be able to comment on. Because we know that for those people that did come to the first one, they were talking about this information. They were talking about leaf blowers. They were talking about the amount of equipment that those contractors are bringing in and the noise that it's making.
And I distinctly remember somebody.
Sorry.
I distinctly remember someone talking about, yeah, I don't like the noise from the leaf blowers, but the landscapers have to be able to do their jobs. I distinctly remember, and I believe that was the lady with the hard to pronounce name. I know her name. Yeah.
well, I mean, it's an oval, right now it's 5-1 that we leave that we take that out. I think we should take it out. We can always add it in, have further discussion. We've spent a fair amount of time on it. We're obviously going to think about it. So, to rather not spend too much time on it, let's remove that and we'll move on.
Well, I think that we should leave it and then move on.
Lisa,
Okay, but
all due
5
respect,
people are
Because
saying
heard
it
we
that.
haven't been taking any votes on any of this. And
Right,
now
and
because 5 of you are against this thought that's coming from me, and I have compromised and said, okay, we won't do decibel levels, but I'm not finding that from the 5 of you that agree that decibel levels shouldn't be included, even though I feel decibel levels should be for health and safety. So I'm asking you to keep this in as something to review.
I did start the meeting by saying we wanted to vote, and then, everybody said not to. So, we're just having open discussions, and we give everybody a fair shot to talk. And the majority's kind of agreed. We're not throwing it out. We're just forever. I think just for now, let's remove it. And if we want to bring it back at a further date, we can do that.
This is a working document. Why
Right.
would you remove something that could be looked at in the future? Why not just leave it in there until we
Because most of
finalize
the
it?
Because we
People
talked
have-
about why.
Most of the people think it would be detrimental to leave it in. That's why.
And I think it's a great way to get people starting to talk and listening in to what's happening with the noise bylaw. That's if they're even looking at these minutes. That's if they're even looking at the recordings. You can go to YouTube and see how many people have even looked at them.
So I would support putting it in the way that Tim just put it in, so that it's there, but it's clear that we're not, it's sort of not really there yet.
Put some question marks before it and after it.
That's fine.
Lee, do you mean with the line through it? Is that what you mean? The way it is now?
Line through it. So
Yeah,
therefore,
that's fine.
it's an idea for discussion, but it's very clear that, you know, there was at least some dissent on it.
Yep.
Okay, so good to move on, leave it like this, it's still in the thing, and
It's in
I'm
it's
fine with that.
a document for discussion, yes.
so we continue down this path of what's written here. Exemptions would be next. In this section, the chief had a whole bunch of extra things listed out here. So when I copied it over, I just removed a couple of the extra ones and kept any vehicle in the performance of emergency work, assuming that covers fire, ambulance, and other activities that fall under that same jurisdiction, but I kept his same overall title. My effort was just to try to simplify this and remove as many words and keep it as clear as possible. So
Okay.
I don't want to move on yet from that number. It's now number 2, but
Yeah, that A covers everything else, right? I mean,
technically we don't need the rest of all these things, but it covers everything that the chiefs had that was law enforcement, fire, ambulance, and then other items. So I just simplified.
yeah, it'll cover emergency trucks clearing or redoing.
Well, it
Power
wouldn't cover
lines,
safety
everything.
signals or warning device, you know, like they had like a, I don't know if they used to have the fire horn, you know, that used to ring.
Yeah, I mean, technically, utility companies covered by performance of emergency work. So technically, we wouldn't need C.
Yeah.
And I believe D would be something we would want to still keep. Though. Is that big enough for you guys? I can make it a little bit bigger.
How about any vehicle or device or equipment in the performance of emergency work?
And that would allow us to get rid of this.
Yeah, and D as well.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, yeah.
I like that. Makes it simpler.
Doesn't that also get rid of B because you have device and
Yeah,
equipment?
it does. Yeah. Yep.
So can
That's
we
the
just
device
say,
part.
but not limited to any vehicle, device, or equipment, and get rid of the A and just make it all one sentence?
Yeah.
Even
Boy, I'm
better.
gonna get my 1-page document.
I mean,
No, you.
looking at the chief's items, I was trying to find a way to just simplify things when my brain was going through it. So, you know, I wasn't trying to guide us down too far my thought direction. I wanted to be more discussion, but I think we're agreeing on where I was going.
John, it's 1 page as long as you don't print it.
Commercial public speaking that's a protected right. Seems like we should keep that.
If it's not plainly audible beyond 150 feet what does not infringe on the legitimate right of, okay.
It's unamplified, that's the key.
Right.
So places of worship is kept in here. Which I was wondering, does this need to be specifically called out?
I guess the question is, do we have any churches that chime?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to live next to a church or near a church, and with this bylaw, I'd be complaining. If
Okay,
The
so
one, the
Without-
one beside the town hall, one of the ones beside the stone one, I think, has something that goes off every hour.
I can concur.
Sounds brilliant.
every hour,
I don't know if it's every hour, but it definitely goes off at random times.
Does, do the train signals have any, like bells and horns?
They have to sound their horn when they come through because it's it doesn't have the gates that come down.
Oh, so there's no like ringing of those, okay.
Well, there's no ringing there, but the train has to sound its horn when it goes through there as part of a provision of the type of pass that it is.
I wonder if the new setup is probably gonna have a gate though with bells.
I think it does. And then that would also allow them to stop blowing the horn coming through.
Oh, good, because I hear that one even like
Yeah,
half a mile or a mile away.
So for snow clearance activity, I simplified this. I took away the day restriction and tried to just make it less long and kept the ricking muffler piece in.
how about we make sure that leaf blowers have to have a working muffler and a sound reduction device. That might be something that we could,
Yeah, I mean, we can add that here, leaf blowers. We'll come back to this.
yeah, I don't know, just food for thought to maybe,
Well,
you
this
know,
is-
proper.
This is exempt. This is in the wrong spots. That would have to be in
Sorry, I didn't mean to get off topic. I just,
somewhere up there, I think.
right, yeah, something like that.
Okay, so sorry, back here, snow clearance activities. So I just got rid of the 3 days and eliminated this part of the line to make it simpler and quicker.
Okay.
Okay,
I don't even know if we technically need the ricking muffler, but I don't see any reason not to include it since it's already written down.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Parades, public gatherings or events. Farming, excavation, or repairs of bridges, streets, or public utility.
So where do the private schools like St. Mark's and stuff fit into? Do they fit into 6? They have a sporting event, or they have a noisy party fundraiser or whatever. How's that going to fit into this document?
I was trying to figure out how the fireworks that the school does fit into this document as another thing that they do. And then they have their bands and stuff at night as well. So I wasn't quite sure. Like,
Do they need a
The
permit?
number 6.
they don't need a permit because they're on their own
But-
property.
I think fireworks, well, they need to be licensed. They might need to have a permit.
Isn't that considered a public event in number 6? Parades,
Right.
public gatherings, or
Right.
events? And it's
From
usually,
appropriate permit or license, yeah.
Right.
is that through
What
the
if-
town that they do
It's
summer
like
night?
a football game that they don't have a license. You don't need a permit or a license for that. I mean, not that they probably don't make that much noise anyway, but
I've never heard anything on that because they do most of that stuff during the day. I mean, I live almost across the street from St. Mark's, so I don't hear anything where I am. The only thing I hear is when their DJ's there and their graduation ceremony when they bring in the big tent on the lawn and then the singing and everything else that they end up doing for that.
I believe that they do need permits when they're gonna have certain size tents There's also permits needed when they're going to have alcohol served. I can think of a very recent inquiry I got where somebody's going to have a very large wedding at a home this summer, and what's going to be entailed in that. So I think we have to wait, if you go further down the document where, permits and that process is addressed, whether we're going to put that in this document for town meeting, if there is going to be a permit process for certain exemptions. So I think we have to see if that's gonna be applicable right now before you take those words out or leave them in.
So it looks like number 6 is going to potentially cover a lot of those.
I had a question. What in the snow clearance activity does it mean with a working muffler or sound reduction device? I mean, can't folks use a snow blower when it snows?
Yeah, so a working muffler or sound reduction device would simply mean that they're on an engine, on every engine, as part of the what's that limitation or that rule? There is a muffler installed on every device. Whether or not it's a very effective one at reducing the amount of output that the engine has for sound level is to be determined by the person looking at it. But each piece of equipment has a muffler to dampen the overall sound output. If you took the muffler or the baffle out, you'd be effectively not have a working muffler, and it wouldn't be reducing any of the sound of the engine exhaust.
Okay, so like a car. So like all
exactly. Yeah.
all the snow blowers should work. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
people can use them.
It's also to reduce any sparks that come out. It's a spark arrestor as well.
You would say if there's a hole in it, it would be considered a non-working muffler. So if somebody had an old defective unit or something, by what this says, it would not be a working muffler. It would be a not fully functional.
Okay.
Is there any reason why someone would take a muffler off? Is it more gas efficient? I'm just curious.
No.
You'd be a jerk.
Yeah.
I guess if it, like in a snowblower, if it
Or it would
gets wet
cost
over
money to
time,
repair.
it rusts out and you don't replace it, and now you have a big hole
Yeah.
because, snow gets on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few reasons I can think of that you wouldn't have a functional. A tractor has a muffler typically in the front of the tractor in a lot of them. So like a typical lawnmower tractor is either in the very front or the very back. If somebody crashed their mower into a wall or a fence or something and broke it off, maybe. It'd be like very limited circumstances for why somebody wouldn't have one.
And the fix is
maybe
very
the cost of fixing it.
No, it's a very easy, cost effective, 2 bolts, slides right on, probably be $10-15. So it wouldn't
There's
be-
a cost. So there's a cost to that. And
Yeah.
so a contractor may wait to replace it.
well, they got to listen to it.
I mean, yeah, but it's if this has it saying it's there and somebody doesn't have one, then
That's good.
I mean, I know people that had dirt bikes that they would take out the baffle on the dirt bike to make it sound just louder. But that would be, different topic than snow clearance. I have a note here, alerts for abutters. And I don't know exactly how that would fit into this section for how we would bring this thing up into this section.
I know that was an idea that we came up with, and I do think it's a good idea, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't put that in the scope as it's always the best practice to, work with your neighbors and alert them on any.
Well, we specifically said for noises that would fall in the exemption category for hours or something, it was something that we wanted to bring up in this section as an appropriate avenue. Now, I don't know how we say if you alert your neighbors, you're allowed to do X, Y, or Z, but it was something we did discuss before about like if somebody was going to do something outside of the hours, if that was part of what they had to do.
Would that be for permits? Like, I think maybe this came up around the St. Mark's events, and that St. Mark's should send out a notice to abutters. I think that came up at the public forum.
So would we put something in here about alerts for abutters in this section?
No, I mean, no, because then you're gonna have to alert everybody along the parade route. That would be an enormous.
Well, for me, this was about just letting your neighbors, this is
Yeah.
about being neighborly, just
Right,
letting,
common sense, yeah.
right, if I'm
exactly,
having a
common
party, let the neighbors know that I'm having a wedding and, as Lee said, or if I'm working on my house late, let my neighbors know, and if it's an issue, it's about being neighborly. So if you had the consent of all your abutters, or, some of the language, then you can work beyond those hours, the homeowner, not the contractor. Or
If we
something.
if we do agree that there's a permit process, then whoever issues the permits can set terms and conditions.
How can you monitor if you get consent from all your abutters though? Can that really go in there? I mean, I think maybe it is a good place to put it at the scope and say, well, if you had common sense and you were respectful of your neighbors and you alerted them to work that was being done, then we wouldn't have to have a noise bylaw.
Right. Right.
I mean, it may not have a place. I don't know if I think it falls in the scope as the proper place for that to go. I mean, if anything, I think the most appropriate place for it to go would be a line like this, but at the same time, I don't know how I feel about including a line like this to allow you special permission.
I mean, I don't think, we can't grant special permission by saying, I have permission with my neighbor. I mean, if you have permission with your neighbor, then your neighbor's not gonna call. Like,
Right.
I think it should be encouraged that the people that are gonna make noise should be encouraged to alert their neighbors to avoid having somebody come down and enforce the bylaw.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that goes or how you should, but it should be an overall encouragement, be neighborly.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we can make an exemption. Oh yeah, I let my neighbor know about it so I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, I think you're right. It'd be hard to determine. And it would only take one person to say that they didn't give permission.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
As we said, depending on the time of year, noise really carries a long way.
It's just an advisory type thing.
Yeah, neighborly.
Just like you want to be advised. You're not so upset when you know it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how I feel about this last one here because it seems kind of open-ended.
So I don't think you need it because if it's in fact been preempted by a state or a federal law or regulation, then it's been preempted. So therefore you don't need to put it as an explicit exemption, particularly since we're not being explicit about what the exemption is for.
Right.
That might come back to our earlier discussion on the CMR on industrial noise. So if there's something that, overrides it, like Peter, we've talked about, the loud muffler laws, in chapter 90. So just kind of referencing things like that.
Mass pike noise, all those things. They have other regulators.
How about like disturbing the peace? Is there a mass state law for disturbing the peace? Are there quiet hours that are already in place that?
It's a high standard. That's what we would use. Say that, like right now, we don't have a noise bylaw, but somebody had an out of control party at 1 a.m. and they refused to lower the music, or people were screaming or whatever, and we had to go back several times. That would be what you would use.
So, Lisa, disturbing the peace is a common law. There's criminal law, civil law. It's a common law thing, and it's basically whatever's been disturbing the peace in the past is what disturbing the peace is in the future. So it's a total judgment. It's before we had general laws. It was disturbing the peace is if somebody's peace has to be disturbed, so you have to have a victim and you have to articulate what it is. It has to interrupt the person's well-being. That's kind of what they use now for the most part. But there's no hard, fast articulation as to what that is.
Is it governed by hours?
No.
Okay.
It would
So-
be a high level. It would be something that was, considered pretty much outrageous.
Right.
Are
So
we
that's
okay?
out there. So does it define outrageous?
No.
Okay.
It's probably, I'm gonna guess it's probably there's case law on what disturbing the peace is. So you'd have to know all the cases in the past history of what that is. Different courts have said this is, but there's no definition, so to speak. I'm gonna try and look it up, but.
Are we okay eliminating number 9 for now? Is that kind of what this is getting back to, or do we want to keep?
Yeah. I mean, I think we have number 6, which says constitutionally protected. So that's kind of deals with federal, state.
Has been preempted by state.
I mean, do you want to put that in as far as, remember we had that section where we're going to have the attorney look at it? That's servability or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We might want to put that in that same type of vehicle. I think you had a green, light green or something. And see if the attorney wants us to put it in there or not. I mean, it's not big. I don't think it's a problem one way or the other. I think it was lime green. Yeah, there we go. That might be like a catch-all that we might have to have in.
Okay. So.
So are we missing something related to storm cleanup or?
Yes, we are. So, what was that line before emergency cleanup? It wasn't in Chief's document, right? Yeah, it wasn't in this document. And it might be able to encompass the snow into this one and just have it as one.
Are generators, use of generators for power outage in this too?
Yeah, that was part of something that we had in the survey. I don't know if we had wording for that, so I'm just kind of throwing something at the wall here.
Emergency storm cleanup, including but not limited to snow generators, hurricanes, tornadoes. How about power outage? Does it just come down to power outage and not so much hurricanes? I mean, do we have to put all that in there?
I don't know if we need it all in there. I mean, power outage only covers it if you lose power. So,
So emergency storm cleanup and okay.
Well, you could have power outage.
Power
if, there's an
outage,
accident
yeah.
where a telephone pole gets taken down and all of a sudden you have to run your power
Yeah.
generator.
Yeah.
so if I have this one, should I just put providing equipment, use an operated muffler? I mean, that seems reasonable, right?
Yeah, I think that should be a standard throughout the whole thing.
And then I think we can eliminate 5 altogether then, because storm cleanup covers it.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Another thing that I saw on one of the bylaws, the example bylaws, was a specific call out for homeowner equipment. Like it said something about horsepower under 15, like equipment under 15 horsepower, or had a number like that. I'd have to go back and find it, but is there any desire or appetite to find out what that is and maybe have a specific exemption for homeowner rated power equipment?
But they're given a bigger window of time to use whatever equipment they have, right?
Yeah, there is a bigger window. I've just seen it in some of the other towns. I have to go
Would it
back.
be confusing? It might be confusing to them. And then people would come back and say, well, I don't have homeowner equipment. How does that work? I have contractor grade equipment.
It was kind of a carte blanche line that I saw before that seemed to kind of just, I think it worked at eliminating questions, but it might add questions in this case.
yeah.
It's been my experience. I have an old commercial lawnmower with a giant muffler on it. It's very quiet, sounds like a car. My neighbor has a piece of junk riding lawnmower with a little dinky thing on it, and it is so loud, it drives me mental. But I don't know if you can, it might do the reverse of what you want, really.
Okay, that's fine.
Sometimes the cheap homeowner versions are louder than they're designed to be dry, the commercial ones are designed to be operated 8 hours a day. So I think they're supposed to be quieter. I had a question on 5. You just finished. Why should we say emergency storm cleanup? Can't we just say storm cleanup?
Yeah,
If you're away for the weekend, you come home and you got to do your driveway, it's not like you know what I mean?
yeah. Comma after including, yeah.
What about an accident where it takes a telephone pole down? All of a sudden people lose power in the street. They would have to use their generators, right?
Right.
So would it be
So that
better
would be
to
not
call it
included.
emergency activities? Would it be better to be called emergency activities and not specifically storm cleanup? So maybe it's emergency activities, including storm cleanup,
Yep.
jet power outages, so on and so forth.
There you go.
Lisa, say that again.
Yeah, so emergency activities, including storm cleanup,
Power outages.
power outage, whatever else is there.
You got the rest of the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might need to take out a
Bring it
couple of
redundant.
words. Yeah.
Right.
If power outages are here, would generators be removed?
So that would be,
I'd leave generators in because there may be other reasons you need a generator. Well, I guess you wouldn't need a generator unless you had a power outage. So.
emergency activities, including, okay. So, including put element 2.
You got okay.
Generators is a piece of equipment. It doesn't kind of go in. It doesn't go in there, does it?
No, that's
But-
what I was wondering. I mean,
Hurricanes,
maybe use of.
provided, yeah, use of generators. I know that was a big question last time. Oh, can I use my generator? And we're like, yeah, it's an exemption, but people, if there's a power outage, yeah, you should be able to use your generator, but don't use your generator, if you don't have to.
So before use of generators, you need the and, right?
Did I put in the right spot?
No,
and
Or the word use.
yeah, right before, right after removal, and yeah.
There you go.
Guys, it's 8 of 10.
Yes.
So let's see
And,
what we got left here, see what we leave off. There's
I
violation.
do want to pin down the agenda for the next meeting and anything else we want to do, so.
We have 2 sections left that we didn't touch on tonight of what I've copied over: violations and penalties and enforcement.
And we got prohibitions also.
Those should be pretty straightforward sections.
Are we okay just tackling it real quick so that way we feel like we got through all this
No.
stuff?
I wouldn't mind doing it later,
I'm good
but
with
whatever
that.
you guys want to do.
I mean, I'm personally in just to get through these 2 sections. I think they're pretty straightforward.
They're cut and paste from the chiefs.
Pretty close. Yeah, the only thing I did
All
on
right,
violations is I separated out. There was a range of amounts. I just put down specific dollar amounts for what each offense was. But other than that, it's pretty much copy and pasted.
Wasn't there something about within a year? I know in one of the documents that it talked about within a year.
Prohibited acts, restrictions, variances, violations. Here it is.
I know one document talked
Yeah.
about within a year.
I don't see it within a year on this one, but I mean, we could put that down here. You know, find the right words. Maybe something like that, and we'll just work a sentence in.
Well, what if it becomes a chronic thing and they just seem to ignore it? And it continues, it's continuous. So does
so
it go
after a
back?
year, it would be a
So-
Well,
first
then you're gonna
offense
have the
again.
succeeding offense thing.
Right, but if you say it's within a calendar year, so, oh, it's January 1st, so, you've continued with it, but now your first offense for this year is $50, even though it should honestly be continuous at 300 because they've disregarded it from.
But we don't have to worry about that because they'll quickly get to $300 again.
I don't think it should be a calendar year. I think it should be a year of offense, a year from the offense.
So,
I think at some point you're gonna end up in court really quick, and you're gonna get some resolution on it. Either the court's gonna say it's not applicable, or the fines are gonna go through, and push will come to shove. Just my opinion.
So don't even put it in.
Yeah, you're probably right. You probably don't. Yeah, the court's going to keep track of it.
I mean, we don't. If we put a time limit in this, then it's, you know.
Yeah.
The only thing you could say, like, if there's no offense for 365 days, then it's considered your first offense again. If we wanted a reverse way out, so it's like if you got a write-up this year and maybe 2 years later you get another one, it's not considered a second offense. Because there's like no statute limitation to how this is written.
Right.
So where you would put that is say, you would say $100 for the second offense within 365 days, $300 for each succeeding offense within 365 days of the first offense. Would accomplish that.
Okay, I like the way that goes, because that
Yeah, I
covers,
just love
Oh,
it.
here it is. It was in the MAHB thing. For
okay,
subsequent offenses if committed within 1 year of the first offense.
I like the way Lee just solved this with this
Yeah.
line. It seems pretty clear.
Yeah, so that says the same thing. Yeah.
That might be something that they would make it unconstitutional on if we didn't have a,
Statute of limitations.
right, exactly.
Okay, so this covers offenses. I put my numbers down for what these were. I just kind of took what the chief had and just kind of took rid of the range. So I don't know how you guys feel about the numbers I landed on.
You talking about the enforcement section?
Yeah, still in the, no, on the violations and penalties for first offense, second offense, and third offense.
Yep.
I think I've seen others starting at 100. I don't know. Chief, do you have any suggestions on these? Obviously, these were determined if these came out of your bylaw 5 years ago.
I mean, it's really, the ticket is a message that it's illegal, it won't be tolerated. Hopefully that solves the issue. I don't think upping the dollar amounts is going to make a big difference to somebody. I mean, if somebody's belligerent and they're refusing, an ongoing neighbor problem, but I think it's fine the way it is. I mean, especially for the offices, if push does come to shove, they don't want to start writing, tickets for hundreds of dollars right off the bat. So I think it's, $50 is reasonable. It's an olive branch. Let's solve the problem and move on.
Okay.
Yeah, so 50, 100, and then the third one has a jump of a greater delta. Okay, moving on. Nobody seems to be against it. Enforcement, I think I copied this straight off the chief's document.
So it's been a while, a long time since I wrote this. I'll just have to look at the MGL cited, make sure that that's all the wording or what applies to it is still valid. I haven't gone and looked up the MGLs.
Okay.
I mean, it gave the police department and the Board of Health opportunity to enforce it, which doesn't contradict anything else we said so far in this. It says that the town departments have to abide by this and make sure it's being upheld. So building permits and all that would then follow this, which is what I thought was good about that piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then just federal and other laws. So that
So
also.
I also think we might have to discuss that. So it was brought up earlier, other town departments carrying out and being consistent. So, then you start getting into the weeds with lawn equipment and mufflers and how many leaf blowers are going at once. And there's a whole multitude of problems. Like I said, when I wrote this 4 years ago, I never even heard of these issues. It was all landscapers parking their big trucks in the street, obstructing traffic. So I think this is something you'd probably have to bring the DPW in to have some comment on. If we do go with restricting, those types of items that they use on a daily basis.
Do you mean the leaf blower suggestion around spring cleanup and fall cleanup time frames?
Yeah, anything that they might have. I mean, you're also talking, we talked about snow removal equipment,
With mufflers?
the parks maintenance. I know one of the big complaints was the school department hiring subcontracting landscaping crews for cleanups on, really the school properties are huge. So I don't know what their requirements are for bidding that out, or the landscapers getting it done, but you bring in town entities. Also in my head, I had, we talked about industrial noise, and Peter can attest to this as well. We went through a lot on a new public safety building. All our mechanicals are on the roof, and we put up a barrier on the roof to kind of block some noise. We also planted a bunch of evergreens in the back of the public safety building and around the generator. And we still got complaints from Lattisquama Road, from a public building making noise. So every time you push a domino, something else, it activates something else. So we just got to make sure the wording is right to make sure that the town departments are complying as well.
Well, that would fall, I would assume that would all fall under the DEP for buildings with the Board of Health. So it's how do I mitigate that sound? So you've put up some barriers, and that's really interesting because you're so close to a school, and that noise, if it's excessive, there's cognitive impairment going on with kids, depending on what's going on. So that's, to what extent that noise, how loud that noise is. I certainly know that I think the leaf blower piece for the town contracts for the schools, they're blowing the lawn that they're cutting and piling up leaf clippings, not leaving them on the ground. So they're using those backpack lawn and those backpack leaf blowers and the big ones throughout the whole cutting season to blow off leaf clippings.
Off
For
of the
someone unknown reason.
fields.
Not exactly sure why, but I guess it's part of the contract.
Lisa, it's off of the fields.
Yeah.
The requirements for the fields are, including having them cut twice a week. They have very high standards for the fields that the kids play sports on.
Once,
probably to see the lines, right? They're gonna see all the lines.
I don't know if that's why I don't.
They're cutting them twice a week.
Yes.
They're cutting the lawns twice a week, and they're blowing the clippings off the lawns twice a week.
On the
And it's
field.
because parents don't want grass stains on their kids' clothes.
No, that is not.
That's what I've heard. I just think once we get a working document, it might not be a bad idea to bring in Karen Galligan, John Parent, maybe somebody from the school department just to take a look. That's my only suggestion.
I think a lot of that comes out of the recreation department too, because they operate, they schedule the sports fields and all that business. So we would need to include them.
So Chief, your point is simply to say, if we have time and hours of restrictions and buildings and equipment restrictions of some kind, just make sure that those departments know about it and they sign off on it, that it's reasonable and can be upheld.
And look at the language. All town departments and agencies shall comply with federal, state, but most importantly, local laws and regulations. We're creating a bylaw.
Yeah.
So
it's good.
I mean, do we need to say that? We don't need to say that.
Well, it's all one bylaw, and instead of having each department come up with their own noise bylaw, which makes it totally confusing to everyone, it's all in one place. And so we just need to make the effort to go out to these departments like the chief is suggesting and say, here's what we've come up with based on the feedback that we've gotten from our residents, and this seems manageable, it's enforceable, and you need to be aware of this when creating your contracts with, these contractors.
So if I'm going to interpret what each one of these segments say, A says the police department and Board of Health enforce this. B says that as permits and different things within town get handed out, they have to make sure that whatever hours are telling that these people that are allowed to work comply with the hours are allowed to make noise. C says that any departments operating within town and awarding contracts and whatnot are upholding the standards that are the bylaw as well as any other state federal laws that are within town. So if they're saying you can mow the yard, they're not telling them they can mow it at 7 a or at 6 a.m. in the morning. So they all support each other, which is the point of why when I copy and pasted, I thought it had perfect sense to copy and paste from what was already done.
I'm just saying we might need input because the public safety facility popped into my head. So we're talking about industrial noise, Ken's, whoever else might pop up, and we actually just faced the issue, in our own building that abuts a school in a residential neighborhood.
Yes,
So-
I'm for talking. I think we just simplified what all these points are and the need to make sure that everybody's aware of it and that there's nothing glaring that can't be upheld that would then become adopted.
Correct.
To that point, Sam Stivers wrote in the chat a little bit ago that there's a peace and good order bylaw in Town Code Chapter 131. So we were talking earlier about what was it? Decent neighbor, common decency and some of that kind of thing. And apparently there's already something in place for that just behavior in Chapter 131.
Of the town code.
Of the town code. It's called peace and good order. So to wrap this up, I mean, we seem like we're okay with this. We just need to double check on things. The only thing we didn't do is this severability, which we were going to do anyway. But I copied the chief's wording and struck through the wording we had before, which was more complicated. So again, this would be legal review. So this should really go back to blue if we need it. Wrong blue. But it would go back to blue if we need it. But that covers us on everything that this document would have. So we got through it all tonight, guys.
Well, we still have sections to work on, right?
We still have more to work on, but we got through everything that I had written down for words. So we got the document, as agreed on as we could be for where we are with more work to do, but at least there's.
Right. We still have like some of the restricted activities to put in, like the animal noise, I think was one of the restrictions the chief had.
Yeah.
So that's the section we have left to work on.
But of all the things we put in our outline, we have some start of a scope. We have a piece of definitions that will be continued upon. We have a chunk of industrial noise which Heather is going to head up. We have a section for work hours. Prohibited activities is the one that needs the most effort.
Mm-hmm.
Exemptions has a good start. If not, pretty inclusive as of tonight for everything we've talked about.
Yeah.
Violations is in pretty good shape. Enforcement's in pretty good shape. And severability is just legal review.
Probably 2 more meetings. We ought to have something, like really kind of workable.
Tim, how many pages is this?
This is down to page number 3.
Let's see.
Ooh.
So yeah, this ends at actually 4. It goes to page 4. I don't know. I'm so zoomed in, I can't see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3. It's only 3. So when we put the full prohibited activities in, we would probably be at 3, if not 4 pages. Well, definitions are going to make this balloon, but we're probably going to dance in the 4 to 5 range, depending on how this is all laid out. And I still have all the MAHB strike throughs and stuff from before, which I can kind of delete now because all the sections we kept. We just kept this for the words, but I don't think we need to keep the words at this point in this new document.
I mean, we all have copies of the document. We can always add them back in if we
do.
if we seem
But
to.
if that's the case, I'd like to just clean this up and keep this document looking a little bit more concise.
Would it be easier to refer back to it as we continue to build this out? I mean, maybe there's good language in there that you can pull in. Just a
I
thought.
can-
Yeah, but I'd prefer to have a simpler document that's clean, and then we can,
Right.
we have these documents everywhere, so.
It worked well tonight, the way that, you guys found the sections and then just sent them to me. And then I just copy and pasted it in as we were doing it live. I don't know if you guys like that style, but it was working for me.
Yep.
I'm glad we've got you to be able to do this for us too right now.
Yeah,
You did an outstanding job.
Thanks.
yep.
Okay, so I'll send this out. I put it as Noise bylaw outline 1/19/22 group edits. So I'll send that out. Who's taking notes tonight?
Lisa's the scribe
Oh,
of this
that's
meeting.
me. I should probably do some scribing, huh?
So I'll
You're
send
gonna
it
be
to
playing the video back?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna play the video back.
Yeah. So the next order of business is, meetings. We have one, we talked about the 27th, next Thursday at 7 PM.
Yep.
Is that still good from everybody?
Yeah, it's still fine for me.
Well, I'm
And-
sorry, next week is 7 or 7:30?
I have 7.
Yeah. I
Okay.
said I had no problem with 7 next week, so.
And the one after that is February 2nd at 7:30, which is a Wednesday. And
Sorry,
hopefully that's
next week was the 27th, right?
correct. It's a Thursday.
At 7. Okay, I'm just making sure we have the rooms as we're doing this.
And then February 2nd at 7:30, we agreed to, which is a Wednesday.
7:30, yep.
Do we want to do any further than that? Or is that good for now?
We should do one more.
Okay,
Just because Wednesdays are the busiest nights to get a room. So we
Okay.
should just make sure we're as buttoned up as we can be on Wednesdays.
For the following week, we do either Tuesday or Thursday for either the 8th or the 10th.
fine with me. Whatever you guys, does anybody know what the story is with Peter?
How about if you just send him an email and ask him, what's going on? Is he gonna
Yeah.
continue to participate or, I
I
mean, this
just-
is
yeah, I
two
mean, I
meetings
will-
he's
I will
missed
send
and
him
one
an
meeting
email. I
he
just-
dropped off of.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do February 10th? To kind of be a little consistent with the dates. It's a Thursday. We have done a couple Thursdays.
Yep. It's 7 PM is fine with me.
So Tim, you'll reserve the rooms and then I'm just gonna do the agenda for the 27th and then I'll do them as we
Can you
meet.
make sure that we add public comment into that agenda?
Yeah,
Add in what?
public comment.
Public
Oh.
comment. We haven't had it specifically listed for the last 2 or 3 meetings, I think. So it just should be an opportunity at maybe the beginning and the end.
Did we have any attendees tonight other than Sam?
No.
So quick question about scheduling the next public forum. We need usually a few weeks notice for that.
Hmm. I think we could probably wait a week and see where we are with the document. Maybe get a little, we're gonna get a report back from the Board of Health. A couple maybe from, I think we need, I think it's too soon.
Okay.
But we can wait a week for that. But yeah,
So
we
it-
do have to start thinking about that.
What was the timeline you were given by the board?
The end of
last-
February, they want to, and they were still sticking to the original timeline to, be to them by the end of February, but they have moved the town meeting, so I don't know how hard, fast they're gonna be on that. They seem to be very flexible on everything, so.
I mean, if we ended up having, our next public forum the week of Valentine's Day, that week, like maybe that Wednesday or Thursday or something, then we would meet the following week on the 23rd, potentially have it all finished up then,
Right.
potentially.
I mean, I think we just need, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Wednesday at the DPW for the sign board, get everybody going to the transfer station for the advertisement. And
Yeah, the
maybe,
problem is we have to tell them at least a
Right.
week ahead of time so
Oh.
we can work out the conflicts.
okay,
So if we
That's
do
good
it,
to
if we decide for sure next week, then we'll be,
Yeah.
there'll be
We'll
plenty
be
of time.
fine.
yeah,
'Cause that'll be
that-
3 weeks.
So it'll be an
Public
agenda
comment.
item for next week, just, right?
Scheduling the public forum, yeah.
Hmm.
okay. I'll put that on the agenda, and I will reach out by email to Peter. And anything else?
No. My only
Oh,
comment is it's been a pleasure to work with all of you these last few weeks. So I'm enjoying this process.
Lee, I
Although
have
it's
learned more
late.
from you than I thought I needed to on some of these details.
Yes, yes. So I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 10:18. I guess we have to do a roll call by doing that. Cindy, yay or nay?
Oh, yay.
I seconded that, by the way.
Oh, okay. Seconded by Tim. John, yay or nay?
A,
Tim,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
and Cindy. Oh, excuse me, Lisa.
Yes.
And I'll do the same, yes. So thanks, folks. Wonderful job, great effort, and another long, exhausting night.
But we're making lots of progress.